Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you from the Wrestle Center version 2016. We're in here today, we're talking about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and the chances that they're going to be leaving Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling to sign with the WWE. This is a video that we've done a couple times in the history of the Wrestle Center and making these videos here. There was a topic of discussion about the Young Bucks leaving the Indies and signing with WWE 3 years ago, where basically they came to the table and they signed with the Ring of Honor on a 1-year deal. And they basically listed as the reasons that the Young Bucks didn't sign with WWE was that they didn't want to move their family out of Southern California to Orlando to have to work out at the Performance Center and go through NXT. They thought they had a pretty good gig, selling t-shirts and working the indies. They worked that 1-year deal, came back to the table, and people were thinking that maybe this is a time for them to cash in their chips and head to WWE, but they doubled down. This time signing a 2-year exclusive deal with the Ring of Honor with dates to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and as well as the chance to wrestle for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, in Southern California when available, still to do that. But that also blocking any independent date in the United States. Basically, trying to keep these guys fresh for when the New Japan shows, as well as the Ring of Honor shows, basically giving them money to not have to go out and kill themselves. Ring of Honor has also given these deals to guys, I believe, like Jay Lethal and to Adam Cole. But now here we are, the Bullet Club, the Elite, whatever you want to call them, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are probably as hot as they've ever been. I mean, right now, they're fresh off of receiving their own Pop Funkos at Hot Topic. Bullet Club, is basically paired up with Pro Wrestling Tees, who signed a deal with Hot Topic, to basically have their own selection of t-shirts at Hot Topic in the mall. On the few trips that I've made to Hot Topic, basically it's the only reason that I go to the mall anymore. I pretty much see more, Young Buck, Bullet Club, Jericho versions of t-shirts than I do see of any of the WWE shirts. I don't know if that is because the WWE shirts sell out faster and they're not on the shelf anymore. But for my time in retail, if an item sells more, you stock more. And I really don't see a lot of stocking of the WWE shirts on the shelves anymore. There's a lot of talk out there, basically, of people saying that WWE could pretty much give the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega more money than anybody else in the world can give them to wrestle. Of course, with that comes wrestling more dates, losing their t-shirt sales. The one thing that I have noticed as of late is that when they were doing the whole storyline when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were fired, they reopened their stores on Pro Wrestling Tees, and then shortly after that, I believe Chris Hero and AJ Styles reopened their pages. So I don't know if maybe WWE is being more lenient on letting these guys sell their shirts. I'm pretty sure they're not just out there flat out bootlegging t-shirts in the wide open on this wrestling site that I'm sure WWE has their lawyers looking at. There was that story that Cole Cabana was saying that WWE had to shut down Jim the Anvil Neidhart from selling t-shirts on the store because of some sort of Legends deal that he had. I don't have an update on that, how that got worked out or anything like that, but my guess is that, by looking at the success that AJ Styles had after coming in at the Royal Rumble a few years ago, AJ didn't have to change anything. Basically, 2 years before that, he was the guy that was fresh off TNA, was looking for somewhere to wrestle, and WWE passed on him, basically thinking that he was going to have to go through developmental, and he'd probably be 2 years in NXT before being the main roster, and thought maybe he'd be at an age where he wouldn't be able to wrestle at the same rate he was in in TNA. He instead went to New Japan Pro Wrestling, became one of the main event stars, the leaders of the Bullet Club, and basically pushed the envelope of being the best wrestler in the United States to now being one of the best wrestlers in the world. Once coming in, Jericho didn't really. The Jericho feud wasn't the best in the world, but the matches that AJ had, he was really able to fit into that WWE style that many people said, differs from New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is sort of the one thing that I base up, if the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were to jump to WWE, I don't think they have to move to Florida anymore. I don't think they have to go through NXT. These guys could show up, at the end of a pay-per-view. I don't know if they immediately go into some sort of a deal with AJ Styles, if they immediately go into some sort of a deal with Finn Balor, if they immediately go into some sort of a deal with Luke Gallows and Machine Gun Carl Anderson. But all of these are options that basically would have the mainstream wrestling fan that watches TNA, that watches New Japan, that watches Ring of Honor, jumping up off their couch going like, man, what is going to happen next? WWE has hit the fan. We can also learn that guys from Ring of Honor, such as, Kevin Steen, who now wrestles as Kevin Owens, he went through NXT. His time in NXT was probably 4, 5, maybe 6 months at the most, the Performance Center, before they immediately put him into a main event feud with John Cena a few years ago. I think what this happens is it's going to have to boil down to money. I think that, this topic of conversation right now is just about Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, because I believe that the Young Bucks deal ends in December and Kenny Omega's deal ends in January, because, he's always that fresh topic of conversation around the Royal Rumble. They basically have to figure out if, being the elite is cashed out and they've made the most money that they can make, or if there's money to be made out there for the next 2 years. I think that the Young Bucks have really changed the way that, wrestling fans look at independent wrestling in the United States. And if I had to make a vote right now, I say that they double down. And if they have to sign another deal with Ring of Honor, I think that would help them. If they need to sign an exclusive deal with New Japan, I think that would be good. But definitely, I don't think that the fans have grown tired of the Young Bucks. I don't see their popularity dying down at all. I think that they do need to sign a deal with WWE before it is all said and done. Not to prove anything to any wrestling fans or anything like that, but basically to just say they did it. I'm not sure if it was always one of their lifelong goals. I know that the Young Bucks' time in WWE was not the best time that they ever had in the wrestling business. But I think that they want to push themselves to WWE because it is the largest wrestling company there is in the world, and maybe see what there is really to offer. I don't know if they have to give up their names. Maybe they can work up some sort of compromise where they wrestle as the Bucks. But that I hope that that's somewhere down the road. I really think that these guys, even though a lot of people think of Ring of Honor and New Japan as being sort of the minor leagues, I think they're really at the top of their game, and I don't really want to see a watered-down version of what they're going to be doing in WWE, losing to the likes of The Ascension or, Fandango and Tyler Breeze or anything like that. I think that right now that they're basically at a point where they work when they want, where they want. They pretty much do what they want to do in their matches. They don't really have anybody telling them what to do in their promos or really telling them what to do in their matches. And they go out and they kill it every time. And I don't know why you would want to give that up, especially not having to be on the road 200 to 300 days out of the year, missing their families, which you can tell from watching their videos and from being following them on Twitter over the years. It's something that they really care about and something that they're not ready to throw away just to become bigger names on a bigger stage in WWE. I'm sure, wrestling at WrestleMania or, something like that is in their goal, for what they want to do in their lives. But, even if they never get to do it, I think that they've achieved heights that, many people thought they were never going to be able to do it when they were wrestling in TNA or they were wrestling on the smaller indie stage somewhere in the States years ago. So I think that they've really cashed in on that 1 year and that 2 year deal. But we'll have to see what goes down. As of right now, my vote is I don't think they're going.